Alrighty, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How's it going, everybody? Combo here. Hopefully you're having a wonderful day, and maybe this video can make it better. Today we have the Yap Fest of the Century. We're going to be looking at every single weapon here in Season 8 of the Finals and placing them in this lovely tier list we have here. Before I get into this video, I want you to understand the perspective this is coming from. I think it's pretty safe to say, if you haven't seen Hyper's video, and basically what everybody's saying at this point, and if they're not, they're lying to themselves. The Finals is taking a very heavy stance on the upcoming majors. I mean, this entire season is themed around the majors, so I don't think that's too crazy of a take to have. So with that said, this tier list is going to focus more on the competitive viability of weapons. I might be a little tough. I think in the past I've been more lenient, like, if you're really good with this weapon, you can... No, we're not doing that this time. I'm going to try to be as objective as possible. Understand that I'm not a pro scene player. I watch the pro scene on occasion, but I'm going to be honest with you guys, like I said, that's just not my realm. I made it to Diamond last season. That's kind of cool. I did it in 2 days, too. We didn't lose a single match, so that was kind of cool. That's my credibility, right? And, you know, I've clocked in a lot of time. I've set some really cool kill records on my channel, things like that. So, once again, those are my credentials. Check out my tip videos, that kind of shit. I like to lay that out first. Enough yapping, though. I'm going to quickly explain what each tier means. In my opinion, S is going to be overtuned. A is going to be probably, like, not overtuned, but definitely viable in a good place. I always say A is the gold standard. B is, you know, good, but maybe not quite as good as some of your options in A tier. Maybe could use something very small. C tier is niche. I'm going to do that here. I always write it in every single tier list, so that's going to be niche. These weapons can work, but in a general competitive setting, like, you're going to be putting yourself at a disadvantage, let's be honest here. And then D tier is going to be needs a buff. You notice that there's no F tier because, once again, I say this a lot, man, even though I bitch and complain about the way Embark has been balancing lately, and I can't lie to you, it kind of fucking kills me. Not gonna rant, though. Overall, man, I think they do a good job. And I want to preface the video by saying that. I trust Embark. They know what they're doing. I think they're being a little cautious right now, and maybe catering to the pro scene a bit, but understandable, right? This is going to be a big event, so I'll shut my mouth until we talk about the weapons. So with that said, hopefully the parameters have been set, and yeah, let's get right into this list. Okay, so first up here, we have the ARN 220. This weapon came out in Season 6 and really has been a staple of really high accuracy PC players in the competitive scene for a good time now. I don't think it's overtuned. I think it's very good. Honestly, I think this is perhaps one of the most healthy weapons in the game right now. I'm going to stick it right in A tier for a couple of reasons. One, super forgiving with those double magazines. It's good at range. It does get out DPS'd at those closer ranges, but if you're good at your shots, especially if you're playing evasive dash, it's very easy to outmaneuver your opponent and even make that work. The only downside of this weapon is, in my experience, right, on console, even after the changes, the recoil can be a little bouncy. But once again, man, if you really do take the time, something I have not done, I've seen pro players use this thing to a very high degree. Once again, very good weapon, rewarding for the time you take to earn it, and I think one of the gold standard weapons for balancing in this game, hence why it's going to be A tier. Okay, next up we have the AKM, the OG rifle for the medium. I'm going to stick this one in B tier. Not quite A tier in my opinion. I do think it's lacking, mostly in the ammo department. And the reason I say that, this thing has a pretty fast rate of fire, and maybe it's just me, but ever since the nerf all the way back in Season 6, I believe, where they took 4 shots from this weapon, it just doesn't feel as good. I mean, the big issue I run into as well, like, if you're going on just a tear, like, this weapon is better for streaking kills than something like the FCAR, but it's not as good at range. It's not as good at holding angles. The recoil is much more difficult. You're probably saying, but Combo, the FCAR kicks really hard in the beginning. You can figure that out. This thing just kind of kicks like a mule. Once again, you can put sights on it and it helps. A lot of people swear by this weapon, but once again, man, generally speaking, if I see a pro using an auto rifle, it's not going to be the AKM. It's usually going to be the FCAR. Once again, though, certainly not a bad weapon, and if you land your shots, especially headshots, this thing can put out some pretty good damage. So with that said, AKM coming in at B tier. Okay, next up we have the FCAR. Once again, I'm going to stick this one in A tier for kind of what I just said about the AKM, hence why I put them right after each other. FCAR is literally just the AKM, but I think it's better at holding corners, easier to land headshots, and that's the important thing. In a game like the Finals, where you have a very slow time to kill, you might think that your rifle weapons are easier to use because they fire more shots. It's actually not true, because you actually have to land more headshots with a rifle than, say, something like, I don't know, a sniper, where you only need one headshot, you take that one shot. Of course, it's more punishing, but the reward payoff for landing headshots with the FCAR is just so big. Also, the range on this thing, once you level out after those first 4 shots, you can snipe people with this thing, which is a huge advantage, especially, as I said, pre-firing corners with essentially no recoil. Very good on PC and controller. Very powerful weapon. If you take the time to learn it, very similar to the ARN other than the recoil. Very good weapon. Counters just about every single other rifle in the game if you land your shots. So for me, it's going in A tier. Alrighty, and now we have reached the elephant in the room when it comes to rifles on the medium. We have the FAMAS. I'm going to stick this right in S tier. I don't think this is a crazy take. For some reason, this is where we go back to balancing. I don't understand why Embark has kept buffing this thing, but since about Season 3, man, this thing has just gotten buff after buff after buff, whether it's damage or recoil, to the point now where if you stick a red dot on this thing, it literally does not move. Like, there is no bounce on this weapon in the slightest. You can snipe people from range. The hip fire is good at close range. This is the easiest weapon in the game to land headshots with. I'm just going to put it out there. That is the real reason why this weapon is so powerful. It is the easiest weapon in the game to land headshots. And when you do, even outside your optimal range, this thing just absolutely nukes people. Like, it's just, it's almost like, it almost makes me cringe watching it at pro levels, because they'll see a light turn a corner and they'll flick over and just gone. Like, headshots with this thing are just insane. Very powerful weapon, very good for team shotting, good ammo capacity, great damage. You really couldn't ask for anything else. So for me, FAMAS, in my opinion, is going to be our first S tier pick. I don't know how they nerf it, and you know, it's hypocritical for me to say, oh, combo, nerf it, because personally, I'm not a fan of nerfing shit. I don't know what they do for this one. I think it's pretty apparent, though, that it's very overtuned. You guys let me know what you think in the comments, but as it stands now, FAMAS is going in S tier. All right, next up we have the Shak-50. I'm going to stick this one in S tier as well. In my opinion, the big thing with the Shak-50, yes, you're lacking in range. This thing has a lot of damage fall off, but even after the nerf to the winch claw here in Season 8, man, if you pull somebody into you, whether that be light, medium, or heavy, you're just going to win. Like, the Shak, you have to try to miss your shots with this thing, especially at close range. Like, there's no excuse at high levels of play not to land all headshots for the most part with this weapon, and it's really tough. There are not many weapons in this game that can out DPS a Shak player who's landing headshots at close range, especially on Lightman. There's only one other weapon that I think combos with the winch better than the Shak, and we'll talk about that later. But man, this thing's, even though once again you have the range fall off, because it shoots those 2 bullets, aim in their general direction and you'll hit them. Like, good Shak players who know the recoil can actually contest things like an ARN, like at range, just because the chances of them missing a shot is so low. So in my opinion, Shak-50 is going to go in S tier. Very powerful weapon, and you're going to see a lot of it, I think, this season. Okay, next up we have the M60. Now this is a tough one, because this arguably could go into S tier, because a lot of pros are using it. However, in my opinion, this season, in some of the meta shifts that we're seeing, especially with the healing meta, where once again, we're still in a healing meta. Don't be mistaken, because they nerfed healing a little bit. We are still in a healing meta. Because weapons that do burst damage are becoming more and more valuable, weapons like the M60 that need that direct line of sight to really see their full value are going down. So I'm going to put this in A tier for now. You could argue, though, this could definitely go in S tier. That's the big difference between this thing and the Shak, is the Shak has that burst damage because you can combo with the winch. M60, you don't really have burst damage. You have sustained damage for sure. If you catch somebody in the open, I would take an M60 over a Shak, but most of the time, man, people are turtling up with their healing, and once again, M60 is just not going to be able to compete. It's going to lose those duels unless you're at medium range to a Shak. So for that reason, M60 for me, going in A tier. Okay, next up we have the LH1, and this one might seem like a crazy take. I'm putting this at the top of S tier. This is now the best weapon in the game. LH1 is now the best weapon in the game, and people are saying, combo, you're insane. So they buffed it by 2 damage last season. They buffed it by 2 damage this season. And let me tell you a little history lesson. Back in the day, okay, LH1 used to be the most dominant weapon in the game by a stupid margin. Now, part of that was because it had essentially no range fall off. We're basically back to pre-nerf LH1 damage, but not range. However, this thing literally does everything. 2 taps lights, 3 taps mediums. I don't think it 4 taps heavies. But once again, in a meta where healing is super important, with the LH1, you have burst damage at close range, burst damage at long range, the ability to out DPS any weapon in the game, especially after the pike nerf. Oh my god, this weapon has like no counter now, unless you hit him with a winch. And if they're a good player, they can play range on you. I'm telling you right now, by the end of the season, this thing is getting nerfed. And I don't understand why they did it, because going back, not to rant, it didn't need a buff. Where it was before, it was fine. It was completely fine. Nobody needed to touch it. But Embark is playing with fire, and they buffed it again. They didn't need to. So welcome back, Season 4. Season 4 LH1. And yeah, this is going to be super obnoxious. I'm telling you guys, I'm going to be labbing this thing. This is going to be my back pocket sweat weapon. You are going to see a lot of LH1. So in my opinion, LH1 is the best weapon in the game right now. You guys just wait. Call me crazy now. You guys just wait. Okay, next up we have the Lewis Gun. I'm going to stick this one in A tier as well. Lewis Gun is just a, it's kind of like how the AKM or ARN is to the FCAR. Lewis Gun, slower rate of fire, better at range. M60 is like the, the AKM, where you have better at closer range, slightly higher damage. It really just comes down to preference. These weapons have relatively similar time to kills. If you like the forgiveness of having more shots with the M60, you can definitely do that. But obviously headshots are going to be more important with the Lewis Gun because it has that slower rate of fire. I mean, at the end of the day, headshots are important on both of them. Personal take, I see more people using the M60 than the Lewis Gun, but that could just be a preferential thing. I think on console, the Lewis Gun is better. I think on PC, the M60 is better, just because, once again, on console, it's tougher to maintain that recoil on the M60, but all things considered, Lewis Gun is still a very solid pick. You're not hurting yourself by using it, so for me, I'm going to stick it right in A tier. Okay, next up we have the Minigun, and this is one of the hardest rankings I have on this video, in my opinion. I don't want to put it, I don't want to put it in A tier, because, as I said, in a healing meta, where burst damage is getting more and more important, and after they nerfed, a big nerf last season was the being able to pull somebody to the winch claw and still have this thing spun up. That did get removed, which does change this quite a bit. I will say, I do see pros use this weapon as a means of swapping if they need to destroy buildings and maybe like cut off choke points, because this thing is really good at defending, not very good at attacking, in my experience. Like, once again, I do see pros using it, I definitely do, but all things considered, man, I'm going to put it in B tier just because, once again, we're going back to the healing meta thing where burst DPS options, and Heavy just got another very good burst DPS option. I think you know where I'm going with that. That kind of counters the minigun really hard because it just can't compete because it has to stay out in the open. So we'll talk about that here in a minute, but that's a big reason. Because of the new weapon on Heavy, I have to take the minigun down one because, the reason to use it, the damage that you used to get, it's just coupled with the healing and the burst damage meta, it's just not as good as it used to be. So for me, minigun, I can see the argument for A tier, but I'm going to stick it in B tier. Alrighty, next up we have the M11. I'm going to stick this one in A tier as well. M11 is an interesting pick. Actually, I'm going to put this... I actually don't really know where to put it. So this weapon is very good. It has a lot of forgiveness and it has a lot of burst damage. But where you're lacking with the M11 is in the range department. And especially as we talked about now, getting in especially like a heavy or medium space with the new SMGs is much more difficult. So this might be a controversial pick, but I'm going to stick the M11 in B tier just because a lot of the builds are getting more answers to taking out builds in close range. Yeah, this thing does a lot of damage, but man, the range just absolutely murders this weapon. Once again, ton of forgiveness. You don't even have to aim down sights if you don't want to. But we'll talk about later. There's weapons that just kind of render this thing obsolete, in my opinion. Once again, though, I can see the argument for A tier, but as it stands right now, M11, I don't think it needs any help. I actually think it's fine where it is. I don't want this weapon to be too strong, because in my opinion, weapons that are easier to use, I don't think should be necessarily the best. You got to leave room for skill expression, and you could also argue, too, at the same time, that skill expression in the finals comes down to team play and positioning more than gunplay, which I would agree with. But anyways, tangent aside, M11 is a very good weapon right now. Not quite where it used to be, good burst damage, but man, getting close to targets now, especially in a heal meta, is getting more and more dangerous. So for me, M11 is going to be in B tier. Next up, we have the XP54. In my eyes, this is just the better M11. They have similar DPS. The M11 does beat it out, but XP54, you can still use it at range. In my eyes, the ARN and the XP are kind of competing for that slot in A tier, where the M11 is more of just kind of an off-meta pick. If you look at the pro scene, it does kind of reflect this as well. I don't really see pros using M11. I do see them using ARN and XP though, and some other weapons that we'll talk about soon. But overall, XP in my eyes, just kind of a better M11 in this state. The big advantage you're getting is, yes, you are sacrificing a slight bit of damage. However, you are making up for it in the range department. So once again, M11, most burst damage, medium burst damage for the XP, least amount of burst damage for the ARN, but easiest headshots, moderate headshots, toughest headshot. You see what I'm saying? So anyways, rant aside, XP is going to be A tier. Definitely a solid weapon, and you're not going to be hurting yourself by using it. But let's be honest, you're going to hurt yourself by using anything that's not the LH1. Okay, next up we have the SR84. I'm going to stick this one in B tier. Sniper, okay, so here's the thing, right? This is going to sound super egotistical. I should make two different rankings for this, and this goes back to how I used to do it in the past, where I was like, if you use the sniper this way, it's really good. Let's be honest here, guys. Sniper just does not have enough sustained burst damage. It has burst damage, not enough sustained, though. It is very valuable at getting a pick on light targets. However, light players who are good at the game, they're just not going to give you an angle, man. I'm telling you right now, they're just not going to. I have adopted an aggressive sniper playstyle, which can actually be super good and is actually like people have called for nerfs based on like the sniper playstyle that I use multiple times because it's like in your face, almost using it as like a slug shotgun rather than a sniper, especially after travel time, man. Watch my sniper guides if you haven't, if you want to learn how to do that. Because this weapon has travel time now, good luck using it as a sniper, and also because at high levels of play, nobody's just running out in the open, and you're not sitting in the back of the map trying to snipe people. It's not terminal attack anymore. So, anyways, rants aside, sniper's good. It has burst damage, but not sustained burst damage like some of these other options, such as the LH1, and you are going to get outdueled. If you don't land that headshot every single time, you are going to get outdueled. So for that reason, sniper for me is going to be B tier. Okay, next up we have the BFR Titan. And this has been the elephant in the room. I don't think it's S tier. I want to make that very clear. I do not think this weapon is S tier, but I am going to stick in A tier because this weapon, here's the thing. This is kind of the same opinion I'll have on the repeater. In a lot of ways, they're essentially the same weapon. The Titan has some good hip fire, so if you practice it, it can be very good at close range. Also, I wish I'd included this in my video, but I found a way to make it basically 100% certain that you land a headshot after pulling somebody with a winch, which allows you to one-shot lights, so you have really good range, one-shot capability at close range, wonderful burst damage potential, and because you have 5 shots, if you land 2 headshots with this thing in any gunfight, like, it's just, you win. Like, just straight up, you win. It's like the sniper. However, you don't have that big scope. It has good hip fire. You can shoot it while you're reloading. This weapon really has it all, but it goes back to the fact that, like, if you don't land a body shot and you miss your shot, oh, Lord. Especially if there's 2 opponents, you don't have the mobility that you need on the heavy. Of course, if you're getting healed by your teammates, this is obviously made up for. But this weapon has one of the highest potentials in the game, but because its ease of use is not very high, like this weapon has a very high skill ceiling, I don't think it's quite S tier. So for me, we'll see how this goes. This could go up or down a tier depending on how the season shakes out or what Embark decides to do with it. But overall, I would say the Titan is A tier. Next up, we have the double barrel. I'm going to stick this one in A tier. The only reason this isn't an S tier is because most of the time, if you're fighting a competent team, you're going to die. You're going to trade. That's the thing, right? At those super high levels of play where people are like sweating through their seats, getting a kill and not trading with the 1900 is going to be very difficult, especially with the shotguns and close range options that we have now. It's getting even tougher to challenge both heavy and medium at closer range. This thing is a light deleter. Like, I was telling you guys about the M11, how there's weapons that do close range damage better if that's what you want. The double barrel is that option. Being able to 2-tap heavies is insane. Of course, healing can counter this, but once again, the burst damage you get is nuts. Even if you are trading, that's still better than the M11, where you have to aim, get close, think about what you're doing. Double barrel, you just run in, shoot 2 shots, 2 hip fires, and then run away, right? It's just, the burst damage is insane, and because you have 2 shots, to me, that's enough sustained burst damage. So for me, double barrel is going to go to A tier. I wouldn't recommend running around with this weapon all the time. However, generally speaking, right, it is a wonderful weapon to have in your back pocket. So for me, once again, double barrel is going to be A tier. Next up, we have the P90. This is the new option for medium. I'm going to stick this one in A tier. Wonderful ease of use, pretty good damage. You are lacking in the range department, but because the heal beam did get buffed, this is going to incentivize those heal beam players to stick next to their teammates. And because both the shotguns on medium, let's be honest here, aren't the best, I think this weapon is going to swap a lot of people's loadouts. I don't think this weapon's OP. I think a lot of people say that right now because we're seeing a ton of them. But overall, man, very powerful weapon. Highly recommend you giving it a try. And once again, I don't think it needs nerfed. So not a whole lot to say. Good ease of use, good damage, good mag capacity, and fits the healing meta. So for all those reasons, I'll stick it in A tier. Next up, we have the Matter. I'm going to stick this one in B tier. This is a hot take. A lot of people might disagree with me on this one, and I understand why. The sustained burst damage on the Matter is good, but I don't think the burst damage is high enough, right? The double barrel can get away with it because you can one-tap light. You cannot one-tap a light with the Matter unless you hit a quick melee, and if they're using a double barrel, which more than likely they are, you're going to lose that fight. You know, that's kind of the thing, right? I could definitely see this thing going in A tier. You have perfect hipfire accuracy, perfect inner accuracy, but overall, man, especially once again with these close range options, not being able to immediately just snap and kill your opponent is getting more and more punishing. So for that reason, Matter for me has moved down from A to B. Let me know what you think about that one in the comments, though. Next up, we have the Cerberus, and this is kind of the same thing, man. Just, you know, looking at things like the P90 where you have a bit more range. Cerberus did get a buff where you can get rid of gas and goo in one shot, which is a nice quality of life change, but nothing crazy. The big advantage you have with the Cerberus is being able to delay health regen with its burn effect. I think that goes overlooked, and it probably goes overlooked because if you receive healing, it, you know, kind of counteracts it, so there's also that. Cerberus just doesn't do as much damage as it used to. I'm okay with that. This is kind of the double barrel equivalent for the light, or for the medium rather. You know, once again, I don't want to see this weapon really get buffed anymore. It's very easy to use. It's fun, not meta defining, and that's okay, man. So for me, Cerberus is going to come in at B tier. Next up, we have the Model. I'm going to stick this one in B tier as well. Now, I will say, I could definitely see an argument for the Model going into A tier if they didn't just buff the Repeater. Because now in my eyes, the Repeater does just about everything the Model does, but a little better. The big advantage before, with running the Model at those high levels of play over the Repeater, was your time to kill on heavy targets. But now that the Repeater kind of got a buff, and Repeater can land headshots, whereas something like the Model can't, they're both very punishing weapons. You're getting a lot more range with the Repeater. You're getting more, funny enough, you're getting more burst damage with the Repeater than you are the Model now. Once again, not a bad weapon. If you struggle at close range with the Repeater, the Model is actually a very good option to have in your back pocket. But overall, right now, especially with those close range options, I got to give the Model a B tier pick. Next up, we have the SA-1216. I'm going to stick this thing right in S tier. Coupled with the Winch Claw, I'm going to be very brief about this. This weapon is still fucking just, I don't understand how it is in the spot that it is. Coupled with the Winch Claw, there is still zero counterplay. If the heavy player knows what they're doing and they hit you, you're just dead. Even on medium, there's not, unless they get healed. Hitting a Winch Claw on a medium with this thing, they're dead. Even on heavy targets, if you're landing your shots, this weapon still has one of the fastest time to kills in the game. The Titan can beat it, believe it or not, if that person lands headshots. But let's be honest here, man. I mean, the chances of that happening when you're fighting a 12-16 player is just, it's not going to happen. This weapon is still popular for a reason. This weapon has always been meta. It will continue to be meta. And all things considered, man, it's just, I don't know. Embark just likes this thing. I think there's a bias here for the SA-1216. So for those reasons, 1216 is going to stay S tier. You're going to see this thing a shit ton in the pro tournaments. So that's where I see it at. Next up, we have the KS-23. I'm going to stick this one in B tier. And you're probably saying combo, but it got buffs and it's, you know, it's, whatchamacallit, it's hit scan. And it can break stuff, but guys, BFR. BFR does everything the KS does, but better. You know how people were saying for the longest time, like, hey, what if we gave the KS-23 headshot damage? Well, they did. They just made it into a new gun that does everything it does better, other than destroying environments. But let's be honest here, like, on heavy, there's so many other options to destroy shit. And if you want to destroy a wall, you're taking up 2 shots, and you only have 6. So once again, man, I think the Titan does everything the KS-23 does, but better. It 2-taps lights, so does the Titan. It can't do headshots. It sucks on heavies. The Titan's better at heavies. It's better at long range. I could go on forever. I want to see this weapon be better, and here's the biggest kicker, man. Because the KS-23, for some reason, still has bloom when you're aiming down sights. So even if you have perfect aim, there is still a small chance that your shot won't hit because RNG. So for that reason alone, reliability of this thing, in my opinion, is still in the shitter. So for those reasons, KS-23 going in B tier. I do have a cool gameplay video coming out with it, though, that showcases just how oppressive this thing can be if you're getting pocket healed, but I guess that's kind of any weapon. So for that reason, KS-23 is going in B tier. Next up, we have the V9S, and you can argue this thing to go into A tier, but I think there's a weapon that just kind of does what this thing does better. We'll talk about that. So B tier, I'm going to do V9S. This thing has a counterpart that does everything it does better except for close range damage. And as we've established, similar to the M11, V9S and M11 are actually very close in terms of killing targets in close range. The double barrel just does both of what these things want to do better. Now, to be fair, you can use the V9S at a longer range than the M11 and the double barrel. However, ease of use, right? This weapon can be relatively punishing if you miss your shots, and it's kind of like the jack of all, master of none. It's not great. I mean, it's good at close range. It's not great. Double barrel's better. So is the M11 in my opinion. It's better than the double barrel and the M11 at longer range, but not as good as the XP. You see what I'm saying? So for me, V9S is going to stick in B tier because there is just a better option. Next up, we have the 93R, which is the better option to the V9S in my opinion. Of course, the V9 will beat the 93R at closer range, but you know, being able to two burst a light with the V9 or with the 93R is actually so good. Like, you kind of have to land a headshot with the V9S to be competitive against the 93R. And also, even though they've nerfed it, please Embark, leave this fucking weapon alone. I love my 93R, man. Please Embark, leave it alone. Because the 93R is so good at range, like this thing outranges the XP. The only thing that beats the 93R in terms of weapons that aren't the sniper and the bow, and the LH1 of course, which does everything, is going to be the ARN. And even then, I've actually outranged ARN players at their max range with the 93R at pretty high levels of play. So what I'm saying is, 93R is more reliable, V9S is going to beat it at close range. This thing I've actually, you know, once again, it does this is kind of the master of all kind of category other than close range, which even then it's not bad. I just think the hip fire sucks. That's really about the only downside. So for those reasons, 93R is going to be in A tier. Okay, next up we have the R357, underrated weapon. I'll say that right now. I want to put this thing in A tier, but once again, going back to the buff that just happened to the repeater, I got to put the repeater above it, man. Now I will say, even after the buff to the repeater, the 357 is going to be better at fighting heavies. However, because the Titan exists, you're going to get outranged by the bigger, you know, the BFR, the big fucking revolver. You're going to get outranged. That's kind of the downside now. Now that heavy has that option that isn't the KS-23, and they can actually hit you consistently, it just takes 357 down because the BFR just stomps on it. On a heavy, you have more damage, more health. You know, granted, once again, BFR is punishing, but let's not sit here and lie. You know, the revolver is also very punishing to use. So for those reasons, man, I want to put this weapon higher. Had the repeater not gotten buffed, I would have maybe kept this in A tier, because if you're landing headshots very similar to the Titan, the 357 has a very fast time to kill, like very fast. But man, once again, it's just unfortunate, man. BFR is just kind of stomping on its toes. So for those reasons, right, 357 is going to end up in B tier. Next up, we have the 50 Akimbo, and these did just get nerfed. I don't know why. Like Hyper said it, the Embark Executioners are out here just slashing kneecaps for no reason. But I'm going to stick in A tier either way. A lot of people are saying right now that the Titan does what the Akimbo does, but better. I would argue and say that they fill completely different niches. That's just my opinion. 50 Akimbo are still very forgiving. They can still two-tap lights to the head. They will out-DPS a Titan, but if the Titan player is playing cover more efficiently, it is going to beat the Akimbos. Akimbos are better at close range, not quite long range. Obviously, the Titan is, that's where it reigns supreme now. But once again, Akimbos are just going to be more forgiving. Additionally, Akimbos do have a little bit of bloom, so on occasion, you'll be aiming at targets and your shots will not go, you know, where you want them to. But overall, man, still a very powerful pick. Overall, I would say not S tier, but once again, both the BFR, I think, and the Deagles, you could argue, could be S tier. Really just comes down to the team comp and the playstyle and the map. That's another big one. So that's another thing too, not to go on a rant, but why these tier lists are very subjective, right? Because there's so many factors in the finals. I talked about this before, how I don't even see cash out as really a competitive game mode in general. But once again, side rants aside, we'll keep that for another video. 50 Akimbos for me are going to solidify their place rightfully in A tier. Okay, next up we have the recurve bow. I'm going to stick this one in B tier once again. Recurve bow is very similar to the sniper. Once again, going back to those weapons, it's like you have them on every single build, like one that's good at close range and one that's good at long range, but they can both kind of do the same thing to an extent. That's the recurve bow. Recurve bow and the sniper go hand in hand. Recurve is just going to be less punishing, generally speaking. However, sniper is going to beat it at range. That's really about it. So just imagine everything I said for the sniper, kind of the same for the bow. You have players that have used this in the pro scene, like Oppo. I think he's the main one that I can think of. So you can use it, and I think like this might be a huge, hopefully I'm not overstepping here. I think I could probably have success with the sniper in the pro scene, but I'm not going to sit here and lie. I would use LH1 if I wanted to like win-win. Maybe that's just me, man. I don't know, but same things for the sniper, just better at close range. So bow goes in B tier. All right, we have the pike, my favorite weapon in the game. Honestly, it's probably the sniper now, but this was my iconic weapon. You know how every YouTuber has their weapon? This was mine. This was my weapon, man. They fucking killed it, so it's going in D tier. No, I'm joking. It's actually really not too bad. I'm pissed that they reverted the headshot buff, especially after they buffed the LH1. You fuckers at Embark. Why would you do that? But jokes aside, don't give me hope. I'm gonna stick the pike in B tier now. After the nerf, right? You have to land all 4 shots. Before, the 3-tap on light was very oppressive, I'll be completely honest with you. But it was kind of your only means of survival against other builds. I think what people missed on this nerf, everybody was focused on light, but the pike was never super oppressive against the other builds. Now that pike takes an extra shot, basically every other rifle in the game is going to beat it at close range. Even if you're landing headshots, because if the opponent is also landing headshots, you're going to lose now. And that's why I wish they would revert that headshot change. Maybe they're just playing with it and forgot to take it off live. But please, Embark, just if you want to de-incentivize people to stop spamming body shots, right? You could take the damage down to 40. I'm not even kidding. If you take the weapon damage of this down to 40 and gave it that 2 times headshot, that would be fine. You know, I don't really understand the balancing mentality here. Was the pike a problem against lights? Yes. Was it annoying? Yes. Don't necessarily agree with how they nerfed it. Just my personal opinion. But those are my takes on it. Once again, biggest reason this is going down. Now that the Titan exists and you have these other weapons like the LH1 that are just going to absolutely fucking murder this weapon, it's going in B tier. Okay, next up we have the repeater, and I'm going to stick this one in A tier. I'm going to be honest, guys, this is essentially just the Titan, but it's on the medium. I do think the repeater is better at range, just because I think, in my opinion, you have more rounds. It shoots a little faster, I believe. I could be wrong on that one. I just think it's easier to land headshots with, generally speaking. Also, I've been using the repeater for longer than I have the Titan, so I definitely have to lab that more. But, you know, players like Sanguine, and even Sanguine, I think he gets a lot of credit for being the CB guy. But I think you're going to see a lot of pros kind of swap over to this weapon. He gets to experience how I felt when everybody started using the pike and said it was annoying. Now it's going to happen to you, Sanguine. No, I'm joking. But the repeater, yeah, it's just a super powerful weapon. Now that they buffed the damage, it's much better against heavies, which was its biggest weakness. Kind of the reason the model even had relevance, in my opinion, in the past. Once again, I could be talking out of my ass there, but just my opinion. So all things considered, CB is going to be going into A tier. Next up, we have the CL40, and I'm going to stick this one in B tier. A lot of people are like, Combo, are you insane? CL40 is good, but now that the self-damage is back to where it was before, yeah, it's just not as good. 5 shots, not great. DPS is very inconsistent. In a game like the finals, where there's already so many inconsistencies, you want weapons that are going to work 100% of the time exactly how you expect it. CL40 is one of those weapons where it's either S tier because your positioning is fantastic and your opponents have no counterplay, or it's like D tier because you're fighting a bunch of people who are keeping range and you can't even get close to them. Or maybe it's a double barrel light and they hit you with 1 shot and you blow yourself up. I don't know, man. CL40, in my opinion, has never really been that annoying. So for that reason, I'm going to stick it in B tier. Next up, we have the MGL32, and I'm going to stick this one. I don't know if it's C or D tier. I'm going to put it in D tier, man. It's a little more than niche, in my opinion. Yeah, people like Truce and Andrewstown, the GOATs, can make this weapon work, but even those guys aren't going to use this thing in a Grand Major. Let's be dead ass here. I think, here's my thought, right? Here's my theory. After the Grand Major happens, I see this weapon getting a huge glow up, and it's going to be like one of the most abused weapons in the game. That is my futuristic combo take. Take it or leave it. As it stands now, though, this weapon needs something. My thought was maybe make it so you can change between like gas grenades or sticky grenades, or the big thing is it needs is utility. Because once a player gets in your face, other than charge and slam, you don't got many options. It can be really good, once again, in very niche scenarios, especially now, something people don't even think about. With the new destruction in the finals, the biggest weakness to the MGL is shit flying everywhere. And shit is flying everywhere more than ever, so yeah, even worse for the MGL now, so I'm going to be sticking that thing in D tier. Okay, next up we have the Dagger. I'm going to stick this one in niche tier. Dagger's good, not as good as, obviously, most of the other weapons in the game. You do have the ability to one-tap every single build in the game. Yes, I'm counting heavies, because the quick melee after the backstab, unless they get healed, which I could be wrong. Okay, so you can one-tap everybody but heavy, because the healing is so prevalent now. I've seen players backstab heavies and they get out-healed before the quick melee can go off. So, once again, that is a thing there. But when things like the double barrel exist, I mean, come on, man. It's just, it's not even fair. When things like the double barrel, even now with the, if they miss that backstab, like, I don't even need to talk about this, man. There's just so many things. A good dagger player, this is kind of like the MGL situation. There are people who can do some amazing things with the dagger, but it's just so limiting, man. So melee in general, man, is going in C tier. Okay, next up we have the sword. I'm also going to stick it in C tier. I think these weapons are very similar now. Fortunately, the sword can now kill a light with the lunge combo again. Yippee. But also, they made the movement way worse. So, I don't know what their mentality is for the sword, man. It's just, it's frustrating, I'm gonna be honest. Yes, Season 1, this weapon was very OP. I'm gonna be so straight up. At Season 1, when the game first came out, the sword was ridiculously OP, dude. But, yeah, we're a long time from there. And RIP Swordmans, it definitely can still be useful. I've actually seen a few pro players use this at the highest levels of play, but I still think it occupies the niche tier, man. I don't even have words for it. I don't even think I'm qualified enough to really give insight on the sword. This weapon is that difficult to balance. So for those reasons, man, sword is going to be going in C tier. Next up, we have the dual blades, and yeah, this is the worst weapon in the game. It's just a worse riot shield. They did buff it slightly, so now you can sprint faster, so you can put down your guard and hopefully die faster, because that's what happens when you use this weapon. Dual blades are a joke. I don't understand what the mentality is behind these. They just need a full rework. I'm not going to go too far into it. If you use dual blades, you're either a masochist or one of the most skilled players in the game, and you can't tell me that you would not do better with literally just about any other weapon in this game. So for that reason, dual blades are just... yeah, the only reason I don't put them in like an F tier of their own is because sometimes when the deflect works, you can like block shots for your teammates, and that's about it. So anyways, dual blades is going in D tier. All right, next up we have the riot shield. Why did they, guys, okay, I'm gonna rant at the finals community here. I'm gonna get shit on because people in this game hate melee. Let's be honest, the devs hate melee sometimes, people hate melee. Right? A lot of people are like, "Oh, fucking melee weapons don't deserve in my arena shooter." I'm just like, dude, god damn it. I don't want to make the whole thing of like, go play COD, because that's been said too many times. But stop nerfing shit that doesn't need nerf. Like, yes, it was annoying with the visual bug, but making it so the lunge range isn't as long and shit like that, it's like, I don't know. People will argue that this weapon just needs a full rework. I don't even think that, man. I don't know. Like, my thought was like, okay, let me play devil's advocate for a minute here. So here's my thought with Riot Shield and what people don't like. If you are fighting a Riot Shield player and they are blocking in front of your face, what if, and this is a crazy take, this was my thought on how to change this weapon. You could say the same thing for the dual blades if you wanted to. Of course, if you did this, you'd have to buff the weapon. If a dual blades or a Riot Shield player is walking up to you and they are blocking, if you quick melee their shield while they're blocking, it forces them into a recovery animation and they can't block for like 2 seconds. And then it forces the fight in a non-turtling fashion. Or maybe, if you shoot their hand, they go into a stun state, but you gotta buff the damage. Once again, people hate shooting this, or people hate shooting dual blades and Riot Shield not doing damage. I'm just kind of spitballing right now on options that I have, but yeah, Riot Shield, it's still better than dual blades. You can still have success with it, even after the nerf, but not competitively. So for me, C tier, very niche pick. Next up, we have the Sledgehammer, and I'm going to put this one in B tier. Sledgehammer still is just so... what's killing the Sledgehammer right now is the inconsistency. It did get a few buffs last season, so that was nice. I think this is still the best melee weapon in the game by far, only because Winch Claw exists. Literally, that's the only reason this weapon is like even somewhat viable. And the fact, of course, that you can break walls. This is still one of the easiest weapons to terraform the map with, so those are the only things keeping the Sledgehammer really viable. You can still one-shot a light with the heavy attack, which is cool, but what's funny now is a lot of the weapons, including the BFR, they actually out-DPS the Sledgehammer at close range, which is just baffling to me. I hear people argue a lot, but you have infinite melee, or infinite ammo when you have melee. Yes, but you also have no range, so I don't know, man. Once again, Sledgehammer going in B tier. RIP, Hyper, and the Chonk, you will be missed. Okay, next up we have the Spear. I'm going to stick this one in C tier. In my opinion, right, the Spear is just a worse Sledgehammer. If this was Power Shift, of course, I'd put it in S tier. I don't have a lot to say. If you miss the heavy attack, you're just dead, like, put simply. I don't understand why Embark is not giving us an option to cancel the heavy attack. People are like, but you can emote. That's... Embark has stated that apparently if you start utilizing text like that, where you use an emote to cancel the spear swing, that's something you could get banned for. So don't fucking do it. You might get banned. Just putting that out there. Rants aside, man, spear just needs, really all it needs, man, is, I think it needs a rework. I think it steps on the Sledgehammer's toes way too much. You need a way to cancel the heavy attack, or the heavy attack just needs to get changed completely. My thought was letting the player throw the spear, and then you pull it back like a winch claw. I don't know, man. I don't have too many ideas for the spear, but it definitely needs a change. Not as bad as the dual blades, and can be good. It can do a lot of damage, but not very often. So for me, spear is going in C tier. Next up, we have the throwing knives. I'm going to stick these in the B tier. Once again, throwing knives are kind of niche. They're damage, though. Let me put this right. The burst damage on the throwing knives is insane, but what's holding them back is simply the fact that they are a projectile weapon. And even if you're good with that secondary attack, I don't see pros using throwing knives. Once again, double barrel, 93R, and there's just so many options that beat out throwing knives. And once again, sometimes, man, especially with the environment always like breaking and shit going everywhere, and sometimes throwing knives just not registering, like a lot of no rigs with throwing knives. A lot of people hate these weapons. They think they're brainless. I don't really agree with that too much myself. I think they're in a good spot. I don't think they're OP. I think they could maybe use a slight increase to their projectile speed. I know, crazy take, I'll shut up. But, you know, throwing knives for me, that's going to go in B tier. And then finally, we have the Flamethrower, which I'm going to stick into C tier. The big reason is this is kind of the same situation as something like, for instance, the Minigun, where the Flamethrower can be good, but most pros know how to play around it. It doesn't do damage fast enough. That's the biggest thing. This is kind of like the CL40, except you don't have the destruction component and you don't have the range aspect. A lot of trades with the Flamethrower. And sometimes you get a really good combo where you throw a Pyromine with the Flamethrower and kill like the whole team, and it's super cool. Most of the time though, you just get outranged. Weapons are going to be better at closer range. You have things like the SA-1216, which are going to kick this thing's ass. The BFR kicks this thing's ass. The Minigun kicks this thing's ass. Do I need to keep going here? And you could argue, but combo the Winch Claw. Well, other than the Minigun, the Winch Claw is going to work better with every other weapon. So for those reasons, man, it is good against lights. I'll say that. But every gun is good against lights because they only have 150 health. Other than precision weapons. I'll quit ranting. But besides that, man, Flamethrower for me is going to be going in C tier. Anyways, everyone, I do hope you enjoyed this video. Hopefully I didn't rant too much. We did go on to like 40 minutes, but oh well, man. I want to make sure this is the ultimate tier list as advertised in the thumbnail. So once again, give me your opinions on these rankings. What would you change? What would you keep the same? Do you think I'm insane? And do I have any business talking about this? The answer is yes. I'm the ultimate authority on all things balancing because I did the quick tip videos. But jokes aside, people, hopefully you enjoyed this. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. Please don't attack people. It's the internet. I understand I can't control that. I want this to be a place of discourse and not Discord or Reddit. See what I did there? The social media platforms. So funny, dude. All right. Thank you so much for coming and watching. This has been Combo. Stay home, stay safe. I love all of you. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Later.